start with an introduction. Take it away, Amber.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm Amber Hines. I'm the CEO of Equalized Digital, and I'm really excited to be here. Thanks.
Welcome. So, since you brought up Equalized Digital, wanted to know what that was and how it got started.
Sure. Yeah. So we are a certified B Corporation that specializes in website accessibility, specifically in the WordPress field, which, if you have any listeners that aren't familiar, WordPress is a content management system that can be used to build websites. And it's a free platform, but it's used by almost half the websites on the internet to build their websites. And so we, as a company, are really focused on helping. We have two arms. We have our services arm, which helps our customers build websites that are accessible. We do accessibility audits. We do user testing with people with disabilities and remediation. We also build brand new websites from scratch from an accessibility first perspective. And then we have a software product called Accessibility Checker, which is an automated tool which can be used to identify web content accessibility guideline errors and point them out to developers or content creators to help them keep their websites accessible, and it can help speed up the manual accessibility testing process. So that's a little bit about what we are. And Equalized Digital is a relatively young still company. We were founded by myself, my partner. I have two partners, Chris, who's our COO, and Steve, who is our CTO. And the three of us have been working together for 5 years building websites for clients. And we kind of got into accessibility initially in 2016, and we really realized during COVID and the pandemic, we were talking about making some pivots in our business, and we realized that we really wanted to focus full-time on accessibility. So we launched Equalized Digital at the end of, let me think about this, 2020, and launched our software product at the we really started promoting it at the beginning of 2021. So it's sort of a spin-off from our marketing agency that we've been doing.
Okay, that sounds awesome. I should partner with you guys. So, how did you become a disability-related entrepreneur?
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier that we kind of started working in the accessibility field in 2016, and it was a little bit of what I call trial by fire. So we got hired to build a website for Colorado State University, and all higher education institutions in the United States have to have accessible websites under Section 508 laws. And I will fully admit that when we first got hired, we were not prepared to do that. And so we had to learn as we went and put in some extra work and changes to make sure that the final website, when it launched, was accessible. And that was just my initial introduction to accessibility. And then over the next few years, we did more work for higher ed and government clients. And through one of those, we actually planned to have users come in, and we had some students from Texas School for the Blind and Visually Impaired that we hired to test websites for us. And that really, I think, was one of the most compelling experiences that I had that motivated me to really want to focus on accessibility full time, because getting to speak with the students personally, they came to our office, watching them navigate the web with various screen readers and really getting to know them really motivated me to want to do more, because I saw firsthand some of the challenges that they experienced. And so that really was what got me into accessibility. And then, you know, sort of realizing that we have the ability to give back through our company and not just build websites that benefit our client, the business, but actually build websites that benefit the entire world and all of the users that potentially could come onto that website.
Okay. Yeah, it can be a challenge with screen readers. I use one, so I know what it's like trying to navigate a website that's partly accessible or not accessible at all, and then you contact the company and, ugh.
Well, and I mean, that's if you can find contact information, right? I've seen a lot of websites out there where it's like they don't even have any way to contact them if you run across an accessibility problem.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, I guess we'll talk about what in the disability field makes you angry.
So I think there's a couple of things. Working in web and doing accessibility audits, I think one of the things that is most frustrating for me is that there's a lot of dishonest or false advertising out there. I think it falls into two buckets. So one is, of course, the accessibility overlay companies frequently talk about things like, pay us $49 a month, install this line of JavaScript, and your whole website will be accessible in 24 hours, which is just completely unrealistic and untrue. And I feel like they take advantage of business owners who probably want to do the right thing and want to make their websites work. They use a lot of fear-based advertising, which is not great. And that's really frustrating for me because I feel like that can give those of us working in the field trying to build really accessible websites a bad name. And on that same front, I get super frustrated when we get brought in to do an audit of a website that's not one that's been around for a long time, but we've had one recently. It was a nonprofit in California. It was a brand new website. And they had told the people who built that it needed to be accessible. They told them we're going to have Equalized Digital come in and audit it so that we can, work out any little bugs. But it had so many problems that I was almost like, you need to scrap this and start over. And I just felt like they really got taken advantage of, and maybe the web developer didn't actually know accessibility at all, and they had no business, building that website or saying we can do it. And so I think that was really, I don't know, that's just something that frustrates me because I feel bad for the businesses or the nonprofits that are trying to do it right, and then there's not really any clear what that means or how to assess a company, and it's really frustrating, I'm sure, for them, and it's frustrating for me working in the industry.
Right. So what about the disability field makes you happy?
Well, I would say one of the things that I have really enjoyed, as I got deeper and deeper into the community is how open and supportive everyone is. I've been doing a lot of learning as I go, and I really think that, I've connected with people on LinkedIn or Twitter that I've been able to learn a ton from. There's some really great conferences out there. So like AxeCon is one, for example, that DQ puts on, and it's 100% free, and they have amazing speakers over in 4 different tracks, running simultaneous sessions over multiple days, and then even if you can't attend, you can watch the recordings online or read transcripts online. So I feel like there's a ton of resources out there, and just everyone is very supportive of people learning and growing, which is really great if you want to get more into the disability field or the web accessibility field in particular. And that, I think, is positive because that's really what's going to lead us to being able to make progress, is having free resources out there that anyone who's interested can join, and they don't have to invest a ton of money in order to learn and start doing better with making their websites accessible.
Mm-hmm. So if you could have coffee or some other beverage with a celebrity in the disability field, who would it be and why?
I have 2 people for this.
Okay.
So on the side of someone who has a disability or is a disability advocate, I think one of my top people would be Haben Girma. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her or your listeners are, but she is a woman who is deaf and blind, and she was the first deaf-blind person to graduate from Harvard Law School. She has a book out about her experience, and I've had the opportunity to hear her speak twice at 2 different conferences, not in person but virtually, and I'm so impressed with everything that she has done, but also how she advocates out in the community, and I'd love to have the ability to sit down with her personally and hear her thoughts and be able to just like ask her, what would you like me to do that I could help with? So she is definitely top of my list. The other person is someone that I speak with on Twitter, and he's come and spoken at some of our events, but I've never really had the time to sit down and pick his brain, but his name is Carl Groves, and he is more in the web accessibility field like I am, and he has built a similar auditing product like mine, and so I really would love to chat with him both, to learn more from him on how he has grown in the accessibility field, but also what his experiences have been like as a business owner in accessibility, because he, is kind of has a similar professional path to what I would hope mine can be.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, yeah, I've heard of the first one. I've never read her work or anything, but I've heard of her though. So here's a question that was not on the list, but I came across it. What is your approach to networking?
Yeah, so I would say that I these days I'm doing a lot of virtual networking. I recently got into Twitter. I hadn't been doing a ton on Twitter, and I kind of decided I'm going to go on Twitter and just going and starting to talk to people, following different threads with that use the hashtag A11Y is helpful, and then really, commenting on people's a lot, and so that's been a way that I've started to talk to people. I actually run a virtual meetup on web accessibility that meets twice per month, and I've used some of the relationships that I've grown through Twitter or LinkedIn to ask people to come and speak, and I think that has furthered some of my network and my reach, having this meetup and having people, meeting people and asking them to come speak and share their expertise, which is great because it gives me the ability to learn from them and everyone else who attends the meetup, but also, helps them sort of be more aware of who I am in the space. But that's primarily what I've been doing. I speak quite a bit, and I feel like that has grown my network as well. I'm only just starting to get back into in-person events. I went to 1 or 2 during South by Southwest. I'm in the Austin area, and there's an Austin accessibility meetup, and there was one during South by Southwest, so I drove down to Austin and went to that, which was fun because I got to meet a few people that I'd only ever met on the web, and I met them in person for the first time, which was great.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that sounds like fun. The virtual meetup, that sounds like something I need to get involved in.
Yeah, it's just if you go on meetup.com and you look for WordPress accessibility meetup, then you can find it. I can also send you the link. It's just on our website. We record, so we have live captioning. Sometimes we have ASL, but it depends on our sponsors and whether we have sponsorship to cover that. But we do record everything after the fact too and put them up, which is, I learn at every meetup. I learn something from our speakers, and I'm just honored some of the people that we have who come and speak at it.
Okay, yeah, you'll have to send me the link so I can sign up and everything. So let's. What are 3 podcasts that you would recommend to 3 other podcasts that you would recommend to my audience, and why?
Yeah, so As far as podcasts in the accessibility field, two of my favorites that I listen to all the time are the A11Y Rules podcast by Nicholas Steenhout is the person who puts that out. And one of the things that I love about it is he's been doing what he calls accessibility sound bites, and he gets users on, and they're like 5 to 7 minute episodes. They're very short, and basically he asks them three questions. So the first one is they just describe their disability, and then the second one is they describe what challenges they face on the web, and then the third is if they could say anything to designers and developers, what would it be? And that podcast has